Welcome to the Queen Stage recap of the 2025 Absa Cape Epic. That's Stage 5, 98 kilometers, 61 miles, 2,850 meters, 9,350 feet of climbing. A truly massive stage. It's got a spike at the end called the neck. That sounds like a terrible climb, and it looks even worse than it sounds toward the end of it. We have some stories to tell. The stage time came in 47th today, 6 hours and 35 minutes and 7 seconds. That's 2 hours and 21 minutes and 40 seconds behind the leader. If you're keeping track of things, that sounds like something went wrong. GC position, you're now in 44th position, so you've dropped 18 positions. You have a total of 22 hours and 4 minutes. You're 4 hours and 16 seconds or 4 hours, 16 minutes and 45 seconds behind the leader. Sorry to go through that, guys. I saw pain going across your faces as I said that. Zach, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, we were cruising, kind of more of the same that we've talked about. Slower start for me, but use the tactics that we've come up with, and we're making some moves. I would say earlier than days past, and then I was like somewhere around 45K in. There was a wet bridge, and they've all had chicken wire on them, and so they'd been fine, but this one just didn't. And before I had any time to process it, I was just on the ground. And then I think what ended up happening is my bike was kind of propped on the bridge, and trying to avoid me, Alex also fell on the bridge and ran over my wheel, which is propped over like a board, like on a curb, and then stomped on it with his front wheel, I think, which, yeah, catastrophically broke my rear wheel with like 18K to the next tech zone.
Yeah.
So
we're like equally between boats. So going back and going forwards were both equally terrible.
Yeah.
So the rules in Cape Epic, first of all, a wheel. It's not like it's not a trail side fix. You don't carry a new wheel with you when you're riding.
Yeah.
There are tech zones that are declared, and UCI pros in particular, the rules are extremely strict on this in the sense that you have to go, but you have to have things in that pit that you can use, or they can offer neutral items for you, but you can't take, like, for example, if some other team was in there and they had wheels, you can't take the other team's wheels unless you have a written agreement beforehand that you submit to Cape Epic that understands that both of you guys can swap equipment and parts. You have to declare that. It's very strict to avoid that sort of scenario.
Yeah.
So you are 18, you said 18 kilometers away from the aid station?
I'm pretty sure, because I had this sticker on my top tube, and so I checked at the time. I haven't gone back and looked on the computer yet, found Strava or anything, but I think 18K. Before
we get any further, are you okay? And Zach, and also Alex, I guess, are you guys both okay?
I'm okay.
my shin's seen better days, and we're really doubling down on my forearm here, but all minor compared to what could have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Zach, you're unharmed from it.
I mean, yeah, a few scrapes, but yeah, it was pretty harmless, as far as crashes go.
To his credit, the first words out of his mouth were, "Alex, are you okay?" So,
was it rideable? You said you broke the rim clean through.
Yeah. I kind of tried to ride it. The tire came off completely, instantly. And so
because there was no air, right? The rim broke.
Yeah, no air. And it was tacoed already, it wasn't like a crack. It was deflected. So I rode with the tire on for 1 or 2K. And then the tire it completely came off both beads and started wrapping up in my drivetrain. So we pulled over and took the tire out. So then I was just riding literally my rim only. And then
it's a very disturbing noise. Even when you know it's already broken, it feels wrong.
Yeah. And it was, just getting worse and worse. And then it started slapping my frame on, as it was going around. Geez. And wore a decent. Before I realized that was what the noise was, I kind of thought it was just carbon on the ground, but it was actually also carbon on chainstay. So wore a solid little divot in my chainstay, which sucks too. And yeah, and then I don't know, maybe like 4K of that, like super slow rolling, like because it's not like stable or or like have a tire on it at all. So you can't really do much. You can't really pedal because it just spins. I just told Alex to go stretch his legs, and I don't know, I wasn't even sure if I was going to finish at that point or just pull out. And we honestly, like, I don't think either of us were 100% sure that our spare wheels were at that next tech zone either. Like, we were like hoping, but we couldn't remember if we told them 2 or 3. So anyway, so Alex went ahead, and I just, after like I like basically forced him to, and I just slowly rolled in, and then it kind of got worse and worse, and then the spokes started collapsing, and as I'm going around, the spokes were like grabbing my derailleur. So I eventually just had to shoulder the bike and just walk. I ended up taking my shoes off and walking the last
sounds comfortable.
Walking the last 1.5 to the tech zone because it's paved. It was like a little shallow paved climb, just in my bare feet with my bike on my shoulder. So it was
oh my gosh,
it was a type 2. Well, not even fun. It just sucked.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how are you gonna convert this to even type 2 fun?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Were your wheels there in the aid station?
They were. Yes.
That's great news.
And then I kind of ran into a new problem. I got there, and I'm going to change the wheel real quick. And for whatever reason, I think when we stopped to take the tire out of the drivetrain and just ride the rim, I put my axle in the dirt because it's like changing a rear wheel without a stand is always kind of awkward. And we were like on this off camber trying to dodge the other racers. I didn't have like a good spot to like turn my bike upside down or anything. Anyway, so I think I threaded my axle in with like full of dirt. I tried to wipe it off, but it's been raining, so we're muddy. There's nothing really to wipe it on. And I got to that tech zone, and I could not get my axle out. Like, it was completely seized. I am like reefing on it with the biggest tool I can. I go to neutral support, and they've got like, full on, full size multi-tools. And it still took them like 10 minutes of 2 guys, like one guy with an 8 mil in the UDH and one guy with a 6 mil in the axle, just cranking on it. And they finally got it out.
Oh my God.
Just to find that my derailleur hanger was like quite extremely bent as well from the incident. And so I really didn't have shifting either, and it was shifting into the spokes. So then I had to do some, bent derailleur hanger work. It was just it was a whole thing.
So you rode with your bike not shifting for the rest of the stage?
I mean, it shifted, but just like classic bent derailleur hanger shifting, where it's like, oh, that one was good. Oh, this one doesn't work. Okay, now it goes 2 in 1. Like you just never. And like you can either have shifting on the hard gears or the easy gears, but not both, type of thing.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was just funny. A lot of time out of the saddle in that one gear that seemed to be like working well.
Oh my God. And then it's muddy too. I saw riders having to walk their bike up some muddy climbs. Were the muddy climbs before or after this point?
There were muddy spots from overnight rain, but it didn't really start raining proper until I was in the tech zone. And that next climb was quite muddy. But it was like, it didn't stick to your tires. It was just like mud in the trail that kind of stays down. I heard the final climb got pretty muddy for some people, but by the time I got there, it had kind of like tacked up a bit. But yeah, it wasn't a huge mud issue other than like it couldn't clean anything, which was annoying.
Silver linings, I guess.
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
That the final climb wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask him if he wants.
Alex, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking this whole time, Alex? Because there's penalties in place if you guys are further away from each other. But at this time, you've got to be wondering, like, well, I don't even know if Zach is going to finish.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes I can totally understand Zach while you're like, go up the road, because sometimes you probably just want the solitude, right? like let me dwell in the suck for a bit and like
Exactly.
you carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was fully committed to riding with him to Tech Q if that's what he wanted to do. I think he was, like you said, I think you're just in a dark spot when that all happens. And I think I didn't know he was going to finish. I think when we left, it was kind of like I was in my mind lonely leoparding, or I would have been happy to, sag with him or, make the trip home as easy as possible. But I think since those wheels were there and he managed to get it fixed and felt good and finished, I think I know we got a 30-minute penalty, and then we're back in the standings now since we both finished. So we have the option to start. We just have to take that penalty. So I think it was just supportive of whatever decision, because I mean, that's just a lot of what's happened this week is just out of Zach's control. So it's like, I mean, any number of riders crashed on that bridge, and like 10 other teams went by us as we were riding with this broken wheel, and like 4 or 5 of them had dirty left shoulders from that bridge.
Yeah, it was taking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, you guys, they have a cutoff time that you can't go beyond that cutoff time. Any sort of penalties, time penalties that come from being further apart, however, do not contribute to that time cut. Instead, the time cut is just you getting across the line at a certain point. Zach, but when I got up, you still hadn't finished. I was checking the results. I sent some text messages like, everything okay? Wondering what's going on. And I figured that something had happened. And then sure enough, I saw your result populate and that you came across the line. Zach, we have to step back here. So you have 2 stages left. Tomorrow is going to be stage 6 and the final stage is stage 7. You've had some leg issues, as you mentioned on the last episode, that are bit concerning and they're new for you. You haven't encountered them, so there's no real playbook handy on how to get through them.
Yeah.
You have Sea Otter coming in a couple weeks. Where are you sitting right now on the decision of, and to be clear too, UCI points are probably out of the question now for where all you two are, I think, right? Or no, you can still get points.
Yep. It's an HC, so they go, I think 50 or 60 deep. So I think just finishing gets you points at Heather with how many teams this year.
So you can get points. Those points would help you for Marathon World Championships or any other UCI races, but not going to help you for the Lifetime Grand Prix, which are your main goals. These are the decisions. I'm sure these are things that have been weighing through your mind ever since you have been in salvage mode and trying to think through this. Where are you at right now with the decision on lining up tomorrow to continue to race or skipping to prioritize the forthcoming goals?
Yeah, I thought about it a lot, and of course, it's a tough one to, I think that perfectly pragmatic decision or selfishly pragmatic decision would be to pull out but also and get ready for Sea Otter. But then there's the part inside of me that's like, am I ever gonna get a chance to do Cape Epic again? That's not a guarantee. And I don't, I think you try to set a personal, goal to not DNF ever if you can. I kind of said that I haven't DNF'd, but anyway, so lots of thought. I think we're going to stick with it and try and get some UCI points, because for both of us too, even one UCI point going into Marathon Worlds with limited opportunities to race UCI with the lifetime calendar, 1 point can be the difference between, it can move you up several rows at World Championships when you're in the position we are in. So I think it's a good idea to continue, both in terms of just I came here, I signed up, kind of out of respect for all the other people that took just as long as me to finish today. And, all the people here helping us, our mechanic, or Alex's family, my family back home, it's just I think it's a good idea to finish even when it sucks. So we're gonna keep going.
I'm sure everybody listening here would support whatever decision you make. And I'm sure that, you continuing in the race, everybody in the comments, chime in, send your messages of support. And then when you're at Sea Otter and when you're at the subsequent events this year, also send your support because this is really great to see you guys battling through adversity. The concept of doing this podcast with you guys, you guys, if all went well and Zach was responding well, I really do think that top 5 isn't out of the question, right? On a stage. I think it's possible. What I'm really glad for is that you guys are going through this race with adversity, because that probably makes everybody else that's listening to this podcast that has gone through adversity not feel like they're alone. And that's important, because bike racing is really tough and the odds are against you at having that constant, just winning nonstop. So I thank you guys for being transparent with your experience amidst all this struggle. It has a huge impact. Alex, you would have been, like you said, lonely leopard. If one teammate stops, the other teammate can continue. You start at the back, or relatively in the back. I'm not sure the back, but you start somewhere back from where you normally would. And then you work your way through the field every day. You ride solo. And sometimes they even give you a special jersey, like a leopard print jersey, because you're different. I think these days they give you a number plate instead, but I could be wrong. Where are you sitting at here? I mean, is it still just business as usual going through to the next 2 stages? How does this affect your headspace?
I don't think it changes anything. I think, like I said, I think Zach and I share in the frustration, because it's not directed at him. It's that we both came for something more. And I told him on the trail, and I told him after the race, that I don't want to have any influence on the decision. It's a team, but it's also a very personal decision. And I had my own history with back injuries and stuff, and I know how much it sucks when the body just doesn't respond. So I just told him, I'm happy to bounce ideas off of, but this is your decision in terms of I support it either way you want to do it. I think, for both of us, pragmatically having ECI points for Worlds is nice, but it's also I think I'm very clear with most people that bike racing is cool, but it's also not my life. So it's something I try to impart on Zach, and that it's important. Obviously, we do it for a living, but it's also a very small part of who we are as human beings.
Yeah, well said. Zach, how's the rest of the bike? Do you have a spare derailleur hanger? Do you have everything that you need to get the bike rolling again? Minus, obviously, I don't think you carried a spare rear triangle with you.
No, and I think the triangle will make it. It's a solid gouge, but it's I've had worse on older bikes that I've just ridden through the years. So the triangle will be fine, and we got a spare rear wheel, and we got, our mechanic's awesome. So he'll have that thing running like it's brand new by tomorrow. So
he's so dialed. Yeah.
It's been great.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Can we talk about tomorrow then? Looking ahead, stage 6, penultimate stage. It's going to be 87 kilometers or 54 miles, 2,550 meters or 4,103 feet. The irony of Cape Epic, or I guess I shouldn't say the irony, but just the interesting thing about Cape Epic is a lot of the time the Queen stage, don't get me wrong, by the numbers is hard, but that doesn't mean that the other ones are easy by any means. This is still a really tough stage. Looking at the map on the stage, this looks like a single track heavy course tomorrow. I could be wrong, but it looks like it's going to have a lot of single track for you guys. With where you'll be starting, do they have you in separate pro start waves based on position, or do all the pro UCI men start at the same time?
Together?
Yeah.
So in that respect, you're probably not going to be worse off in that regard. And with this single track sort of opportunity, that sort of thing, I'm sure it's going to be all about being in the right position, caught on the right side of these little split points throughout the race to be able to get ahead of different riders. It's going to be an exciting one to hear about. What does the weather look like tomorrow? It looks like rain, but perhaps a little bit less than today. Is that correct?
I haven't looked at totals, but chance of rain for essentially the rest of the race here.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like Sunday, at least as of now, we'll see. Sunday might let up a little bit for you guys. We'll have to see. Hopefully that's the case. We're excited for it. Everybody, go and follow Zach and Alex. Send your support to them. Cyclesport.com. Thanks for supporting them. If you go to cyclesport.com and you go and purchase anything from that site, it's an online retailer for all sorts of bike parts. 10% of that will go to Zach and Alex. I promise you that will go toward replacing a wheel for Zach. It's all very important stuff, and if you can do that, that would be fantastic for them. Thanks for sharing your race with us, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Later.